host this class today, and I'm very happy to have all of you in this course called Unmasking the Beautiful Human Face. So I hope everyone had an opportunity to grab their piece of paper, pencil, and an eraser. And if you are ready, then we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to be sharing my screen, and most of the presentation will be a PowerPoint. However, if you go to your gallery view, you'll notice that I also have another screen with my name, Wes Garcia, and my hand is currently right in front of it right now. I will be using that screen to do some drawing along with the, as I proceed with the presentation. So that will need to be something that you can quickly access too. Okay. All right. So here we go. Let me share my screen. Oops. Okay, can everyone see that? Maybe a thumbs up from Virginia if you can see it. Yes? Okay, I'm hoping everyone can see that. All right. So look at these faces. We see them all as human faces, right? So they're so different from each other in many different ways. And yet, when we observe them all, the first thought that comes to our mind is that they are fellow humans. And to me, that's very fascinating. But I also ask the question, why? Why is it that in all of this variety, we sense automatically a commonality between ourselves and all of these faces, and between all of these faces? They are all humans to us. Okay. So our course today will focus on the architecture of the human face. Specifically, we'll be talking about spatial positioning and alignment of the facial features. Every face is different, yet there are commonalities too. So I ask a couple questions to begin, and we don't need to, I know we're muted, so you don't need to verbalize your answers, just reflect on the questions. How do faces differ from each other? And you see a couple faces there on the screen. You can look at them. How are they different from each other? So some things that people have mentioned before when I've asked this question is that the size of the face may be different. Faces may be more longer in a vertical format or wider. And the shape, so just those contours around the perimeter of the face, and also in the landscape of the face. The color, obviously, of a face is unique. And then there are the details. And sometimes people enhance the way the face appears with headdresses or adjusting the hairstyle, adding makeup, all kinds of things lead to differences in each face. And of course, the age of a face will vary. what are some commonalities between faces, though, is another question. And it is these commonalities that will help us through our lesson today, okay? Basically, what I want to say about that is that it seems to me that even with tremendous variety in the human face, we do have the facial features generally located and aligned with each other in very specific ways. So the locations are based on regions of the face, right? The eyes are above the nose, and the nose is above the mouth. And those signals, those visual spatial signals, help us to identify a face as being human and like our own. Okay, so as I said earlier, the course is called Unmasking the Beautiful Human Face. And we do want to talk about unmasking the face because so many of us these days are having to cover up when we go out in public, right? And I've got several different masks that I wear, cover up parts of my face, big portion of it. But today we're going to unmask beautiful face. Okay, so have your materials now ready. If you look at my modeling camera, I've arranged my paper in the vertical format. So top to bottom is tall, left to right is narrow. And have your pencil and an eraser. Mine are separate, but they can also be attached if you have your eraser at the end of your pencil. And markers and colored pencils are optional. Okay, before I begin with the drawing portion of this, I just want to quickly remind you to use the 4 Ps. And these are the 4 Ps: patience, perseverance, positivity, and practice. And I start with this because, you know, when it comes to drawing, some people are a little self-conscious about their skills, but you know, even very accomplished artists still, you know, throughout their lives, you have challenges that sometimes, you know, make drawing difficult. And also, everyone started somewhere, right? And no one was an expert at the very beginning. So I encourage you to just try your best and be patient with yourself. Persevere through the whole process. So don't get too hung up on you know, any mistakes that you feel that you might be making. Just have some grit, carry on through that. And that's related to positivity. So talk to yourself in a positive way. And then understand that if you learn something from today and then decide to practice in the future over and over again using the information that you've gleaned, then you will get better. Okay? But more important than just the drawing is something that I want to point out is that you can gain from today's session, I think, just an appreciation for the human face whenever you look at one in the future. Okay? To just see how there's so much variety and yet also the commonalities between each face. And at the bottom there of the screen, I have that you'll learn best if you use the 4 Ps and if you remember to have fun. So let's do both of those. And here we go. Okay, on my modeling screen, I've indicated light and dark. Okay, so just want to go over some of these points real quick. Lighter lines are used for guidelines and alignment marks. Okay, so most of our drawing at the beginning will be with light lines. And you can barely see it, but this is a light line, and this is a light line. And I'm encouraging you to use light lines for our guidelines and alignment marks as we start, because it makes it easier to erase them when it's time to do so. And then comparing that to the dark lines, which are used for finishing, we will add those at the end, like as our drawings reach their finishing phase. So use only light lines and light alignment marks until I suggest that you can make darker lines. And then most of your light guidelines will be erased. Okay, observing and drawing the beautiful human face. First, we'll create an outline of the head, and then we will explore the features on the face. Move this here, and observe their spatial relationships to each other. So understand this though, we are not trying to draw the same face. In fact, it's variations in size, shape, color, and anatomical details of the facial features that create the unique beauty of each face, okay? So you might see my drawing or someone else's drawing that they may show on the screen, and if yours looks different, that's fine, because we're not trying to draw the same face, okay? So let's look at some faces. And as I said, we're gonna begin with the outline of the head. So I want first to see some of these faces and perceive the outline of the head, okay? So this woman here has a headdress, but underneath is the outline of the head. So you need to be able to see that. Here's a child. Where would the outline of the head be? There we go. Okay. Here it's much easier to see because the top of the head is more exposed and the outline of the head is there. What about this one? His hair extends pretty far up at the top. So the outline of the head is here. So those of you just joining us, you'll want to have a piece of paper aligned in the vertical format, like you see on the modeling camera with my hand in front of it right now. Okay, and we're using a pencil and eraser as well. All right. So now here's a boy. And the outline, there we have it. I'm actually going to use this boy as our prototype, okay? He will become the focus of our drawing lesson today. But again, we're not trying to draw his face. We're just using his head and his face as kind of a guideline, an example for us to learn about the different facial features and their spatial positioning and spatial relationship with each other and spatial alignments with each other, okay? So I'm gonna gray out his face. And now, if you can take your pencil and get ready to draw. All right, the first thing that we're gonna wanna do, oh, by the way, let me just mention here on my, if you see my drawing paper, I have made a mark closer to the bottom of the paper, okay? Maybe 1/3 of the way up or even less than 1/3 of the way up. And that's just, I just want to have you put a little mark like that on your paper to set us up for something that we might have time for at the end. Now, when you have made that mark, I would like to encourage you to keep your drawing above that mark on your paper. So leave the bottom part untouched, okay? All right, so this is the part of our paper that we'll be focusing on. All right. Notice that in our, on the screen, we can observe in our mind a circle. And I would like to encourage you to start with a circle, just like this one. But again, keep it above the mark. And I'm going to go ahead and draw in mine on the modeling camera. And remember, we're starting with light lines. For demonstration purposes on my drawing paper, I might make mine a little darker so that everyone can see, but something that you want to strive for is a lighter line, because part of this circle will eventually be erased. Okay? And notice how I still have a good amount of space here above that mark I made. All right, next, another circle that overlaps the first and it's smaller. So do your best. Again, using the 4 Ps. Be patient with yourself, persevere, be positive, and just do your best, because you'll have time to practice more later. Okay? Now, why did I make these 2 marks or these 2 circles? I did so that I can use them as a guide to do this, to create the head shape. So go ahead and do that. And I will give you a little bit of time. But even as I move forward in the process, someone just joined us, and what you'll want to do is grab a piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, and hold it up or put it in front of you in the vertical format. Okay. All right. So even as I move forward, if you're still working on one step, then that's fine. Just kind of listen in on what I'm saying, and then catch up. But I will try to take my time and not rush too much. Okay. So now that you've done that, you basically have the shape of the head. And at this point, you can erase the circles, as I'm doing now on mine. Right? Very good. Don't worry about it being perfect or anything like that, okay? All right, so first thing that will be very helpful for us is if we make a vertical middle line, okay? So let's do that first. And again, make this a very light line. What I want to ask first now, as we proceed, is where do you see the eye line in this picture? Is the eye line going to be close to the top of the head shape, the head perimeter? Is it going to be closer to the bottom, more centrally located? What do you see? Interestingly, on pretty much every human head, whatever shape it takes, that eye line is in the middle. And that's one thing that a lot of people miss. When they try to draw a head, they think that the eyes are higher on the head, but they are not. So draw that eye line. This will be a guideline for where the eyes are placed. In relation to the eye line, where do you see the bottom of the nose located? Just pay attention to the picture for a moment and see where that nose line actually falls. It's about halfway between the eye line and the chin and the bottom of the head. So go ahead and draw that nose line in, again with a very light line. Now, another positional line that we're going to need is the mouth line. Where do you see it in relation to the nose line and the chin? Again, interestingly, on every face, it's about halfway between the nose line and the bottom of the head, with slight variation. But some of these consistencies and commonalities between each face are the things that help us as humans recognize our fellow humans. Okay, now it's time to make some alignment marks, okay? And we'll start with the eyes. So what I want to say about the eyes is each eye has a shape, or each eye has a size and a shape, but we're talking about size first. So each eye has a size, and I want you to take note of the size of each eye, and of course they're going to be very similar in size, but also pay attention to the distance between each eye, and that space is about the same size as the eyes themselves. Okay, so you'll see some alignment marks now. There's the first eye, there's the second eye, and look at the space in between them, about the same, right? So make those marks now, and then you'll see on my screen that we're a little bit closer to the sides of the face, and that's okay, right? Someone who just joined us, if you'd like to draw along with us, then grab a piece of paper and start in the vertical format. Everything that you see in yellow on the screen is what we've drawn so far. All right, next, we will go ahead and draw in the eyes. And in order to do that, we're kind of centralizing the eye shape around that eye line that we made. And just notice that the upper lid is sometimes, and maybe more often than not, more curved and curving further away from that eye line than the bottom lid. Okay, but that's not always the case in everyone. But you know, you decide what kind of shape you want to give your eye. But it's more like in most cases, a gentle curve above the eye line, and an even more gentle curve underneath the eye line. And we'll do that for both eyes. Okay, do your best with that. And then we're gonna go ahead and just look at in a very general way, architecture of the inner eye. So basically what we have here are circles. And if you hide the upper part of the circle under the top lid, that usually is what happens on most faces, where the top lid is covering the top of that circle for the pupil. Okay, moving on. Pay attention now to this spatial alignment of the nose in relation to the eyes. This is a relationship that I want you to be aware of. Again, remember, facial features vary in size and in shape. So not every nose is the same size or the same shape, but you decide for your drawing today how you want to align the edges of the nose in relation to the architecture of the eyes. So in this case, I'm making the edges of the nose slightly wider than the inner edges of the eyes. And like I said, these edges can be further apart or closer depending on the face, and it's up to you. All right. Now we're going to use these guidelines to draw in the details of the nose. So what we usually have here is some type of a curve to indicate the nostril on both sides, the nostrils on both sides, and then a U underneath the nose line to connect them. Okay. So it looks like the nostrils are like wings, and then there's a U connecting them. And then finally, the edges of the nose are like, you know, a curve, a vertical curve, vertically aligned curve. And if you like, you can actually be very precise about, in most cases, curving the lower part of those edges underneath the nostrils a little. Okay, so you'll see it extends further away from the nostril at the top, but then gets closer to the nostril underneath by curving closer to each nostril and underneath each nostril. Okay? But again, every nose shape is different. Okay, next, the mouth. Usually, but not in every case, but usually the edges of the mouth are a little further apart than the edges of the nose. So go ahead and make these very light lines. And then I will use those to guide the drawing of the mouth. Now understand that the first line I'm going to draw here is the meeting of the lips. So a line is formed when the top lip meets the bottom lip, and that's the line that I'm going to draw first. There's some character to that line usually in each face, and you want to just pay attention to what that line looks like. In this case, I have mine starting slightly below the mouth line, and then it rises up above the mouth line and then does a little valley dip in the middle, and then finally descends underneath the mouth line again, ending here at the right edge. Okay, that's what I saw in this boy, but again, this boy is only a prototype for our drawing. And then the next two lines I will draw will be actually the border of the lip, the top border and the border of the bottom lip. And the top lip will be more fully drawn in. The bottom lip, I will just draw like a short line, and you'll see what that looks like. Oops. There's the top lip and then the bottom lip. So you can do something like that. All right. Next, we're going to explore the neck. Now, sometimes people draw their neck very, very thin. Be careful about doing that because, you know, the neck does have to have some substance to it, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and draw my neck in my drawing. And I'm going to catch myself up with the other parts. That'll give you time to work out the details of your own drawing. Okay. So go ahead and take some time to work out some details, and then we'll continue in a few moments. All right, there's mine coming together. Notice also, I've drawn these two lines over the image of the boy to generally indicate the width of his neck. However, you might have necks that are wider, especially like in more faces. And in that case, you know, you would just maybe start the edge of the neck, like somewhere in between the nose line and the mouth line, maybe. So it might descend from here down like that, and then from here down like that, possibly. But in general, you want to, especially for a straight frontal view of the face, be sure that you're starting at the same spot on either side, right? Okay, let's move on. We're gonna go ahead and look at the eyebrows now. Oh no, I'm sorry, the ears. Okay, notice the alignment of the ears in this particular example. Okay, again, there's gonna be slight variations in every head, and remember, those variations are what contribute to the beauty and uniqueness of each face. In this example, we notice that the ears are actually aligned with the tops of the eyes, okay? And then they extend down to the nose line. So I'm gonna draw in the ears now. You do the same in your drawing, and you decide where you want to align them. Okay, so maybe you want to align them a little lower, maybe with the middle of the eyes. But if you do so on one side, do the same on the other side. And some people have smaller ears, some people larger ears, and often, like with a child, the ears might be larger in relation to the overall size of the head. So that's fine too. So you decide how you want to indicate your ears in your drawing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do so in my examples.
Wes, I don't know if you're going to go back to this later, but we had someone in the chat asking if you have any tips for drawing detailed eyes.
Yes, I'm going to actually do that. It's coming up in the presentation. All right, next, eyebrows. Be sure as you draw these in that the outline is very light, because what we'll eventually do with this is draw in lines indicating the strands of hair, and then we want to eventually erase this outline. So make sure that this outline is very light. Notice that the outline extends in this example further on both sides than the size of the eye, right? Again, there's going to be variations in size and thickness and even positioning for eyebrows. So you decide what you want your eyebrows to look like in your drawing. But do notice in this example that you know, the total width of the eyebrow is greater than the size of the eye. Also, there's a little bit of a closer approach to the eye on this side of it. And then the eyebrow seems to be a little further away and narrower on this side, further away from the eye and narrower on the outer edge. But again, that doesn't have to be the case for every face. It's just the case in this boy's face that we're using as a prototype. There's the other one. And looks like the eyebrows are slightly different in shape on each side, at least in appearance, for this boy. Okay, so do your best with that. And now the hair. So I want you to think of the hair as, I know we think of hair, we imagine hair as a bunch of individual strands or curls, and that is the case. However, for drawing, you can, for convenience in drawing, you can actually perceive the hair as a single entity. Imagine like just one large clump of hair being dropped on top of the skull. Okay, and then again, if we treat the outline of that chunk of hair with a very light drawing, then when we come in with the details, we can eventually erase some of that outline. So in this case, the boy's hair looks like this. You see, it's just this large shape, okay? And I've indicated it in red there. So you decide how you want your hair to look. I'll give you some time to do this, but pay attention to this next couple of ideas here. You can also use a different shape for the hair. If you want to try long hair, perhaps make the shape higher on top and extend the shape down the side of the head. You can have the hair go beside and even behind the ears, or even cover the ears. So what would that look like? Boom. You see? So here's the original boy's head and his hair. But notice what I've done with that. More hair, and maybe even extending higher above the skull, around above the headline. But it's up to you. And notice how the hair that I've drawn here even covers some of that, the eyebrows. And in this case, it's completely covering the ears. If you want to keep the ears visible, you can do that, which means that the hair is going behind the ears, right? So it's up to you how you want to do that. I'll show both kind of back and forth and give you a few moments. And then I would love at this point, if anyone feels brave enough to like show what they have. It's not required, but if you'd like to. Hey, I love it. Look at that. Wonderful. Okay, thank you. Yes, yes. And remember, this is just one attempt. You can do this over and over again, but now you're growing in your awareness of the alignments of the facial features on any face that you attempt in the future. Okay? In fact, you can, using this information, you can actually look at the faces of people that you know, or even your own face in a mirror, and draw, attempt to draw what you see by trying to match the specific shapes of each of the facial features that you're observing. However, with this knowledge, you can also just draw any face just from your mind if you know these alignments, okay? All right, let's move on then, but you can, continue to work as we go. So here is the original boy's face. Now, what I invite you to do is erase all the horizontal and vertical guidelines and alignment points in your drawings. And then also add strands of hair in the eyebrows. And then erase the outline of the eyebrows. You can also draw in strands of hair for the head, the top of the head, and the sides of the head in the direction that they actually go, or add texture to show curls. So I'll give you a few moments to do that, to follow all those steps, and I'll work on my own as well. And you might be able to see that in the modeling camera. Again, if all you're doing is observing what I'm doing on the modeling camera, then that's fine. But if you have the opportunity to try it yourself with your own drawing, then that's highly encouraged. See how mine's coming along there? And I'm just gonna hide this here by erasing part of it. Under the curls. And I can, when you start adding hair strands, just be sure that you draw them going in the direction that they actually would go. And you want to vary their length and their size. And how close they are to each other. So sometimes closer to each other, sometimes further apart. Right? And usually, like in places that are further back, there will be more darkness, so you can add shading. I don't have time for all of that right now, but I can work out all the shading in the face itself and in the hair later. But that's how mine's coming along so far. Now, let me address some questions about the eye, right? Something that, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and show you on my modeling camera, something that you can do with the eye. I'll just draw a shape here of an eye. Something that I like to do is with this inner architecture of the eye. Here's the circle, right? The pupil, lens, iris. This example that is in the PowerPoint shows this reflection circle. It's a white reflection circle, and you can add that on both eyes. It would be on the same side of the eye. So if on the right side of one eye, then the right side of the other eye as well. And then there's another circle that you can draw where that reflection kind of overlaps it. And if you shade that in, it would look like that. And then we have these radiating lines that are like slightly darker as they are closer to this reflection. And they like extend, these radiating lines extend from the center of the eye outward, okay? So it kind of looks like this. But as you get further and further away from the reflection, then they get lighter. Like that. That's just a nice little trick. That works sometimes, you see? And then yeah, there's sometimes a fold line here above the eye. And if you draw eyelashes, oh, the other thing you'll want to do is, because of the shading, the shadows that is cast underneath the top lid, you might want to make the top lid darker and thicker to show shading, to show a shadow that is cast underneath that lid. So it looks maybe like that. And then eyelashes, they kind of curl like this. You see? They're curling. I don't know if you can see that close. So they're radiating outward and upward, right? So that's how that normally looks. And I'll just bring that back. All right. So let me just look at the time. Looks like we have about 5 minutes. So let me go through what I have, the last parts that I want to cover. So in the future, knowing some of these spatial qualities of the facial features, you'll be able to look at any face and say, oh, I spot the head shape. And I see where all the facial features align in relation to that head shape. I also see the hair or the neck, and then the hair as a single unit that is like sitting on top of the head shape. So I wanted to just quickly share some drawings that I've done myself. This is a self-portrait in charcoal. And you can see basically the same ideas that I've covered there, except this face is slightly turned. And here's a drawing of a child. But again, notice the eye line is about centrally located in relation to the head shape. Then the nose underneath that, the mouth underneath that. And look at the ears, where they are, right? So something I thought that might be fun that you could do just as a pandemic project is, as you decide to, on your own, do some practicing with your own drawings of faces. Now with this new information that you have, you could actually draw a face, right? And if you look at my modeling camera, I've drawn this face, right? But I made that line at the very beginning for a reason. And that is so that I can have this part of the paper available to fold over my drawing. and I can cover like the nose and the mouth area. And once I've done that, I can draw a mask. And that might look like this, with some fold lines that masks often have, right? And I was just thinking that it would be fun to write in the words under every mask, as you see on the screen there, my PowerPoint. And then you can open it up, and underneath your drawing, finish by saying, is a unique and beautiful face. Right? So there it is. Under every mask is a unique and beautiful face. So hopefully we don't have to hide our faces too much longer. And this pandemic will be behind us, and we can all see each other again in all our glorious beauty. All right, any questions? How about one more look at what you guys have got? If anyone feels, willing to share. Oh, that's very nice, Ashley. Thank you. Anyone else? Again, it's not required, but if you'd like to, that'd be great. So remember, this this presentation was recorded, and I think you can access that in the future if you're not sure about, like where the alignments are again. But it's been, oh, there's another one. Thank you so much. I love it. That's wonderful. That looks great. So it's been a pleasure working with you today and having you in the class.
Just an announcement real quick before we leave each other. There is a survey that I posted in the chat. If you want to be entered into our raffle at the end of the day, which has some amazing STEM prizes, make sure you take the survey so that we can better our conferences in the future. And again, thank you so much, Wes, for this amazing presentation. I think we all walked away with so many cool things to do now. So thank you again.
Awesome, thank you.
And make sure to go check the conference homepage for the next set of awesome presentations. Thank you, guys.